Welcome back to Diesel Pack Garage, where it seems like we work on everything except diesels most of the time. Anyways, today I'm going to go ahead and be putting hood pins on my 2004 Jetta because the hood latch has broken multiple times now between the previous owner and me, and it is cheaper to get a hood pin kit, and there's a lot less to break on them. So the issue I've been having, and I did take a couple bolts out to look at it, but the hood latch here, it keeps bending this back piece, and it looks like it's lined up from what I can tell, but there's no adjustment in the top piece. Usually you can like unscrew some stuff, slide it over, slide it around to get it to line up perfectly, and that's not the case. So we went ahead and at this point, all we've done toward the hood latch is, if you come over here, I had a 10mm bolt here and a Phillips screw bolt thing here. I don't know where they ended up. Oh, well, here's my 10mm. I don't know what it is stock, so you'll have to play around and see what you guys want to do with it, but I went ahead and took those out so I can kind of pull this forward and get a little bit of movement on the hood latch piece. So we're going to go ahead and squeeze that up out of there. Keep in mind, if I was in here for the radiator yesterday or the day before, so I already have my release disconnected, and you'll also have a sensor over here, which I'm going to have to see and research some. I think this like tells you if your hood's open or not, so if we just unplug it, I don't know if we're going to get a light on the dash when we go to start all this. But that'll be a problem that I'll figure out down the road for you guys. So take these two out, disconnect your stuff. You should be able to pull this forward and just kind of work it up and out. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. Once you have it out, you'll have your hood latch, and as I said, that sensor attached. I kept the cord in one piece because I don't know if I'm going to have to do something with this sensor down the road. Looks like it's just a very basic contact sensor where it pushes down this little metal bar to make contact. But now that I have this off, I'm going to go ahead and put my two bolts here. Oh, one thing, for that cord, you have a couple of these that poke up into the underside of this. So you have to kind of get like a screwdriver in there and pop them out. I got 2 of the 3 to come out, and the third one I broke it. So I mean, the thing's still up there. It's not going to rattle. It's fine. And then for this, we'll see. I think I'm just going to take the hood latch piece and for now tuck it back up under here. Just in case I ever want to add this back, I don't have to pull everything through. I don't see any reason I'm going to. But now we are going to take the 2 hood pins, and luckily the Jetta has some nice holes right there and right here, so it should literally just be a matter of that. Take one bolt off, drop it all the way through, and then put the bolt up from the bottom. So take this one off, and then yeah, you can adjust the top bolt to figure out how much you want it sticking out. I'm going to start it probably pretty shallow, and then over time we'll raise it up, and I'll explain why I'm starting it really like low in a minute. And then just show to what I meant by like really shallow is once you put this in, I guess it's deep in the hole, but there's not much sticking up out of the hole. And it's honestly probably not even enough to go through the hood when we close the hood to figure out where we're going to drill everything. But this will hit the hood closest to like the accurate spot that we want it to be. If you have it sticking up, it's going to hit the hood in a slightly different place. So I think it's going to be best to figure out where we want to drill our holes in the hood to go through with it shallow, or with it sitting low, and then we'll kind of raise it up to be enough to go through the hood when we're kind of fine-tuning everything at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and work this bolt, take it around the back, put it up on there so this is at least in there good, so we can close the hood on it and get an accurate spot where these touch the hood. Now that we have these in, just what I did was held the nut on the bottom of the hole and then just spun this down to sit there. And the next goal is to figure out where we have to drill. Now when you set this down, I mean, it'd be hard to figure out in the top of the hood where to drill through to hit that. So I want to get something where I can put it on here, close the hood, and it leave, or excuse me, put something on here, close the hood, and it leave a mark wherever it touches the hood. That's, excuse me, wherever it touches the hood. That's kind of my goal. And I figured that way if I can get where it touches the hood, then I can drill straight through the hood. Should theoretically put me in the right point for this. For the kit, it has some of these washers, so if I don't get it exactly right, I can go back and kind of drill out the hole a little bigger, but I'd really prefer to get as close as possible first time to not have to go back and do a bunch of extra work. So I think I'm just going to try probably some caulk. Put some like sealant caulk that I used under my deck, or I'm going to use under my deck to seal like water holes. Because if I put that there, close the hood, it should give me some transfer. I can also then just wipe everything down. It's not going to stain my metal. So it's still going to give it a clean look at the end. So I just had some of this Loctite heavy duty caulk sitting around. Just dropped it a little bit on the top of both of these. If you don't have caulk, I've seen people put like a little bit of tape on this, and then a bunch of like a colored thing, maybe some spray paint on top of the tape, close it. You don't really care about getting stuff up on the hood. That's, you know, you're going to drill through it, it's going to be the bottom of the hood, nobody's ever going to see it. I just don't want to get something that's going to stick to my hood pins, which are then going to sit up through my hood and potentially, you know, look ugly. Another thing, used motor oil. If you just have a little bit of that smeared around, you'll be able to see where the motor oil transfers, stuff like that. I just figured this is going to stick and be our best bet. So let me get this out of the way. And then we go ahead and, you know, it's all clean right now. So go ahead and close it. You know, make sure we get both sides touching good. And then lift it up. And there you go. There's the one for this side. There's the one for this side. So now I am going to find a drill bit that is roughly the same diameter as this. It's actually going to have to be a hair bigger. And the easiest way to do that is get a drill bit that just fits through the center hole of the piece that you're later going to screw into the top of the hood. So if it fits just through that hole, you should also, it should be roughly the same size as your hood pin. So this was just the drill bit I happened to grab first. Looks like it's roughly just fits through and kind of rubs. And then, I mean, I know I have the caulk all over it now, but it looks like it's roughly the same diameter, maybe a little bit bigger, which should perfectly work for what we need. But now I'm just going to go ahead and put this into my drill and drill up through here. If you get a lot of smoking, you can use some oil, motor oil or drilling oil or whatever the case is. But this is pretty thin metal. It looks like it's, yeah, just real thin stuff. And then we have a gap, and then it's the hood itself, which is also thin metal. I don't think we'll need any oil for it, but if needed, I have it available. Okay, so I got through the first piece of metal on this side. Something I wanted to mention, I have these little magnetic trays. You can get like a block magnet. If you put it next to your hole, I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera. Let me see if I can, there we go. If you put it next to your block hole, it'll kind of pull a lot of these metal shards that would otherwise fall. I mean, don't get me wrong, some are still going to fall into your engine bay, but it's a good way to kind of keep your area clean. Because actually earlier tonight on a separate project, I got a piece of metal in my hand, like a little shard, and it was a pain to get out. So I do what I can to kind of minimize getting metal all over the place that I might grab at a future date. But I got this through. I'm just going to go ahead and go through the other side of the hood, and then we'll move these magnets over here, wipe this down with a wet cloth that I'm not going to wash or anything like that. I'm just going to use like a shop towel, some of these blue towels, with some water, try to get all that stuff off, and probably a file to get any of the burrs around it, just trying to be safe type thing. So, got both of the holes all the way through. Something else is, once you get your first hole through, you can close the hood to see how it's going to travel through the hood. I didn't pay attention to that, but hopefully, I mean, the first hole's sitting now, because you see my hood sitting down, but as I stated, we're going to have to bring it up, and I'm also going to have to file this. I'm planning to, I mean, hold on a second. You see, you got that, and then you have a good bit of area around it. I'm planning to put some kind of like sealant, maybe a primer paint, something like that on these. Because I figure if you can get water underneath, then it's going to get on this unprotected metal, potentially rust out. So I'm going to try to address that now. But I want to make sure everything's in the right spot before I do that, because if I have to re-drill a hole, it's just going to take off my primer. So what I'm going to do now is wipe off my two pieces, raise them up. Maybe not as high as they go, but raise them up a good bit, because I do know they are a good bit low. And then get them to close the hood, make sure they go through and all that. Maybe if I had used that tip about closing the hood and figuring out where exactly it hits the top piece, I'd be in a better situation. But on both sides, you got the hood pins a little back on that one. Well, like kind of back and to the right on this one. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and lift this up, drill that out. And as I stated, since these are so wide, I still don't think we're going to have any issue covering whatever hole. I mean, even if I had to come like totally off the hole, you're still not seeing the old hole like off this side. I mean, we'd have to go pretty far to run into that issue. So I'm just going to go ahead and lift the hood, drill up here on this one, or actually I'll probably just put it in and kind of pull to the side to widen the hole, put my drill bit in, pull to the side to widen the hole. But we got close. I just should have paid a little more attention. With about 30 seconds of work, it's not pretty, but once again, that's why we have the plate over it. I just kind of like put the drill bit in, or lifted up the hood, slid the drill bit in, moved it to the side a little bit, drilled it, and kept setting it down until I felt like I had a good clearance. This side's still a little loose, so you're still hearing it. But now I just have to bring these up. I'm thinking it's going to be pretty much all the way because I'm going through a thicker part of the hood. But bring these up and then make sure that the pinhole clears, and we should be golden. Now that I knew roughly the height I needed them, I just grabbed a pair of channel locks and held it by this, spun this nut down to tighten, and then I also made sure that my holes are roughly left to right, just because that's how I want my hood pins to sit. And now if you close it, you're going to hear it scrape, because it's going to have to, like, yeah, this side. But I think it's just going to have to kind of grind itself down and stop the rubbing. But this side is sitting nice and perfect. I assume, can we see with the light down in there where it's rubbing? No, not really. I can't tell. It's on the bottom hole, not this top hole, obviously. But I can't see like which side it is to drill it out a little more. But overall, I'm going to now come back with a file and get all these little burrs off of the two holes and also on the bottom. And then I'm going to find a little something to just kind of and get it cleaned up to hopefully prevent rust, as I stated earlier. Good deal. I went ahead and found some Krylon rust protector. It's just something that I had kicking around over in my paint drawer, and it said rust on it, so we're going to use it. For the first stage, I came back here and held a shop towel over the hole on the far side so I don't have paint spraying through, and then just sprayed up from the bottom. One thing I noted over here is that on these hoods, apparently this isn't sealed, which I didn't even think about. It's kind of obvious looking back. Sprayed a bunch more on this side because I did this side first and it started running out. I can get some rubbing alcohol and clean this up. You're not going to notice. And it's the bottom of the hood. I really don't care. But I'm going to give this, and that one's dripping a little bit, but it's okay. It's hitting something black down there, so we're just going to let it go. But give this a couple minutes to dry. And then I'm going to do a similar operation up here where I just kind of hold a shop towel like down below this hole because I don't want to touch this because it's wet paint. But then put my Krylon can pretty much in this hole and spray down, and then I'll just kind of get around the edge of it by spraying it on a shop towel probably and dabbing it. Figured that'll get at least a decent amount of protection without going past the little ring that we put on the top side. So when I was starting to spray the spray paint can, I realized how wide the overspray was. So I went ahead and just placed a shop towel over each of these holes with a rough cutout of how wide I'm okay with the spray going. And then I just took this other one, held it under the hole, sprayed down through this so I get a little bit of overspray on the top, get a good coating in the middle, that kind of stuff. And now I'll leave these for about 5 minutes or so, and then I'll take them off, clean up the edges with some rubbing alcohol to make sure that it's not bigger than that ring, because I want this to look clean at the end, even though it's a very cheap fix. But yeah, I'm just gonna wait a little bit. Looking on the bottom, as I said, I'm okay with overspray down here, but I mean, we got a good coating on both sides. I'm happy with how this is, and I just found a nice middle spot where the hood doesn't try to open or close, so I can have a little bit of control while doing this. But I will check back with you to get the rings put on once I let this dry a little bit. It's had a little bit of time to set now. I went ahead and closed the hood. You see the hood pin sticking up with its little hole just above the hood line on both sides. We're now going to go ahead and install those little circles. Looks like, I don't know if that might be a sticker on the bottom. It's like really white, so I'll have to mess with it. I don't think so, but I'll verify. Put that down. And then you got 4 screws. I'll probably just align them front to back of the car so they match on both sides. But let me go ahead and get one side done, and I'll tell you if this is a sticker on this kit or not. It might help stick down and be better. Couple lessons learned. 1, not a sticker on the back. 2, I decided to go ahead and put some of the caulk on this also. help hold this to the car hood. 3, I don't have a good drill bit for these size screws. The ones, if you don't drill it out wide enough, they don't go in on their own. They're not self-tapping. I tried to use a really small bit, and it wasn't wide enough for the tip to get in. They're slightly tapered. So the ones I have there, I don't know if it's going to hold well. However, with the caulk under it, I'm hopeful, because you'll always have it caulked, and then the pin will keep it from actually flying off. If I notice it being an issue, I'll come back with some slightly bigger screws and run through there. But I don't have any screws that I feel like would match this. Also, I know I said something about, like, you know, getting it straight front to back. It's kind of cocked in toward the center. So I'm just going to, you know, take that into account over here. And just, I mean, you figure that'd be center. So, like, we'll finger off of, it's like right in that area will be good. And now what I was doing was, I had my drill. I drill out one hole, put one screw in, drill out the other hole, and then I drill out the 2 sides at the same time, put those screws in. And trying to figure out the best way to put these screws in, I don't know if I messed up this one bad enough to not be usable, so I'm going to put it in the top, because I figured this one's going to be getting the most pressure on it. I'll use a good screw there. This one will probably have the least pressure, because this will be lifting up. That'll be pushing down, I hope, as you're driving. So that's kind of my thoughts, but I'm going to go ahead and get these 4 holes drilled and screws put in. As I said, drill, put a screw, drill, put a screw, drill, put a screw, and then drill, screw. So that's my process so far, and it worked decently on that side. Okay, so I'll go ahead and push this through, and then just pop the pin over. That's in there. And then same thing for the other one. Take the little pin here, push the pin through, fold it over, and we now have hood pins. Now, I'm thinking I am going to have to replace these screws. We'll see. I don't think it's going to come off. As I said, it's not going to pass the pin, but I do think it's going to come loose, and at that point, I'll go ahead and deal with that. I do have a little bit of caulk around the edges, like back here on this little spot. So, I mean, if you just take a fingernail, a shop towel, whatever it is, and then this side, I'm just going to have to wipe it down, because I have a little bit of caulk around it, a little bit of caulk on it. I just figured if I can seal it a little better, but now it's all sealed up. Pull these out. I'm not going to actually, well, yeah, I will. Hey, come on. There we go. Pull it up, take it off. You're good. Oh, good thing I did that, because it looks like I got a bunch around this. Which, not that I think it hurt anything, but I'll try to clean this up. So give me 1 second. As mentioned in the beginning of this video, I wasn't sure how to handle the sensor for this. I went ahead and turned on the car, and from what I can tell, it is doesn't detect that the hood's open. So I'm just going to go ahead and waterproof this, tuck it up under here, and be good to go. However, you know, maybe I missed something, maybe it comes on. It shouldn't come on as a check engine light. But if for whatever reason I have to change this in the future, I will put that as either in the description or a pinned comment, and I will keep this wiring harness for now. If it turns out this has to be closed for it to work, all I'm going to do is take this out, put it in there, tape this down so it stays closed, and then just tuck it up in the side. And really, it's either, like right now, it should be reading an open circuit, and I don't know if open's correct, it seems to be, but if it wants a closed circuit where that has to be pushed down, it's just going to be a matter of taping it up. But I will put those instructions in the comment if I run into that issue. I did slip the car up for a couple seconds. I still don't have coolant in it from the last video where I put the radiator in, and I believe it also needs power steering fluid. But seems to be working okay, so I'll take the one where I can get it. The last thing to do, if you haven't done it already, is put back your bolts that hold this piece up here, because you don't want that just flopping around. How it went in, the 10mm definitely feels better than the Phillips that's over on this side. So I assume the 10mm was the original one. But at this point, you're good to close it up. Figure out where your hood pins are right here. Slip them through. Come on. This one is like just barely catching on a screw there. So I guess go from outside to inside works better, maybe. Yeah, there we go. That's easier. So we'll just go outside to inside on both of the hood pins, and you're good to go. So, thank you for watching along. Feel free to make any recommendations you think would have made this process easier down in the comments for anybody else watching this video. If it helped you, also, please feel free to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I still get excited on every new subscriber, so it's awesome if you guys would do that for me. But that'll do it for me. And hopefully I will see you guys again in a video I drop here in the next couple weeks. Thank you.